Okay, how's it going? We're here with my boy Sid. Sid, what's up, man?
How's it going, man?
Well, man. So, Sid, who do you work for?
I'm an investor with Capital Factory, the center of gravity for entrepreneurship.
And what is Capital Factory, apart from being the center of gravity for entrepreneurship?
So some might call us an accelerator, an incubator, but we're more of an advisory fund. We're also the most active investor in the southern United States, in the state of Texas.
It's amazing. So we're here in Austin, Texas. You've got a location here, but we've actually got some other locations of Capital Factory. Is that right? Where else are those locations?
We've got offices all across the state: Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, baby.
And San Antonio, that represents your connection with the four-star command military stuff, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there's only one four-star general outside of Washington, D.C. He's here in Austin, and he's here to oversee the DoD's basically their military and technology applications. And so he does that right across the street from Capital Factory. So we have a great privilege of working with the military and the DoD and seeing some awesome companies as a result.
It's amazing. There's a lot of amazing things coming out of Capital Factory. I'm proud to be a portfolio company with one of my companies there. Great bunch of people, always doing amazing events. That's actually where we did the Richard Branson event.
Yes,
I don't know if that predates you. Would you?
No, I was there. I was there.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. Sir Richard Branson always know how to throw a show.
He does. So if you guys are interested in like being part of the center of gravity of entrepreneurship, check out Capital Factory.
Hell yeah. Go Longhorns.
Well, hello. Who am I here with?
Isaiah Studevant, CEO of Everon.
That sounded so sultry and smooth. Right, so tell us, what does your company do?
Yeah, so we're a revenue marketing agency for growth stage B2B SaaS companies. So we come in and we handle all the revenue marketing. So that's demand gen, paid, creative, strategy. We're an entire marketing team for a SaaS marketer.
And what stage are you working with companies? Small companies, big companies?
Typically Series A+. We see the most success with Series A, Series B, who have a first head of marketing who are trying to find their feet, and now they want to ramp up results, ramp up pipeline creation, ramp up marketing source revenue. That's when we come in.
So a lot of people claim they can do that, right? And one of the things I think is interesting about you guys is it is B2B, which is, it does differentiate you, but how are you starting to prove to people that you are a cut above the rest and differentiating yourself in the marketplace?
We get in the trenches with the sales team. So I know a lot of agencies, they work with the marketing team only. They pump up leads and make those metrics look really good. Like, hey, we created 100% more leads than last quarter, but how much of that turns into actual ROI? So when we drive our leads, we're in the CRM with the sales team, and we're actually validating that our leads are closing, that we're actually turning revenue and ROI for that company.
So you definitely want a partner with it like this when you get to that scale. But when you're in the trenches, when you're in the early days, what is one of the biggest recommendations you think a startup should do? Is that a CRM? Is that, what is it? What do you think it should do?
The founder knowing, number one, how to sell in the early stages, because trying to hire a VP of sales in the early days might be a bit expensive, and you need to know how to speak to your customers, you need to understand their language, and if you're a good founder and you get pretty decent at sales, you'll know how to hire the right VP of sales that won't cost you money in the long run.
I think that's such good advice, and I see so many people hiring C-suite people way too early. Like, I guess in the Series A round, that's when you want to start bringing those heavy hitters and paying those types of wages and whatnot. But I found time and time again, when people hire those people too early, they don't know how to integrate with a startup. They're like, okay, cool, at day one, where's my $1 million budget to market this company? Like, dude, we don't have that. So getting the founder to start and know how to sell and know what the value proposition is a massive deal. So thanks, man. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Who are we here with?
Kyle Brastrom.
Hey Kyle, how you going, man? So Kyle, tell us about your company and what you do.
I run Dive Chat. It's a group chat app centered around events for activity-based communities.
Amazing. And we've actually met before, so I'm cheating a little bit, but this app is like the nicest looking, seamless looking UI ever. Like, it's super beautiful. So what's the plan to sort of get this in everyone's hands?
Yeah, so we're launching a Greek Life across the country right now. We actually have 100% of sororities at Stanford that use the platform today, a lot of organizations in Greek Life at University of Texas, and now we're scaling campus to campus across the country over the next 2 semesters.
I love it. So your technique is to target sororities. You can't knock that. You can't knock that strategy.
Absolutely.
And so you live in Austin, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And so you guys doing VC funding? Have you done that? What was your journey with the funding and things like that?
Yeah, we've raised a little bit of venture funding and a lot of angel funding as well. So we're very fortunate to have incredible investors that built platforms like Instagram, Clubhouse, Twitch, all backing us. And also, you know, they serve as incredible advisors helping us in what is a very difficult journey.
So do you think that's the most important thing with the kind of startup you're doing is great advisors and people who can point you in the right direction. What's the big thing to success, would you say, in this early stage?
A special type of crazy. You got to be willing to keep going after everyone tells you it's a terrible idea, and relentless iteration. We're on version over 1,500 of the product, as well as surrounding yourself with an incredible team, of course. So that's what it comes down to more than anything else, is the team that we've built in order to build, as you said, a very well-designed product. I could not be more thankful to our designer, Greg, my co-founder, John, on the technical end of things, and everyone on the team coming together to just obsess over building something that really does generate value for the end user.
Amazing. No, it is a beautiful app, and I think you're right. It's the innocence. You can't lose that innocence, that stupidity, to keep going, because it's not a good idea until it is a good idea.
Absolutely.
And a lot of that's perseverance.
Blissful ignorance.
Amazing. Thanks, Matt. So who are we here with?
Tyler.
Hi, Tyler. How's it going? Well, me and Tyler know each other. So, Tyler, what's your background? What have you been working on previously before the startup you're working on now?
It's a good question. I started my career in cybersecurity, and then I moved to cloud computing. I left Microsoft roughly 18 months ago to focus my attention around API lifecycle development.
Yeah, and that's been a roller coaster in the startup world, especially going from a corporate,
Yeah.
right? So what was that transition like? You know, maybe not all the drama we've spoken about in the past, but like the transition from Microsoft to the startup world.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because I think everybody has a unique journey. Sometimes you need to get kicked in the pants to actually realize that you need to take a step away from what you've always been doing. And yeah, that was an event that occurred when I was at Microsoft. When I left, to answer the question more specifically, it's kind of the valley of the shadow of death. The first couple months, you're making a lot of big progress, set up the email server, get the AWS accounts going. But yeah, at the end of the day, you wake up 3 months later and you're looking into the abyss and chewing glass and asking, well, what do we do now, right? And so the year that precluded all of that was just what every startup founder, I think, does, and that is a big grind. It's a gut check of like, do you actually have what it takes to actually do this? Are you the right person? And putting yourself out there a lot, which is, I coined this basically standing on the end of the diving board naked, right? Which is, I'm completely vulnerable. I'm asking you for like help, and I'm also telling you something that's completely novel. And does that make sense? And do you actually associate with it? And the surprising thing is, I think when you show that you are completely dedicated to what you're doing, the world starts to open doors for you that you otherwise would not have had you not done that.
That's super prolific, actually. Yeah. I think it's so true. I think some people really underestimate how hard it is, how flipping hard it is to actually start a company and get it going. And I think some people come in it with ego and arrogance, and it's actually the most humiliating ego kind of reduction thing you can do, which is start a company, because everybody says it's a bad idea, even if it is a good idea, right? And it's to make your way through that's pretty hard. So I'm proud of you, man, that you got this far with it, and you've got to keep grinding, I think.
Yeah. No, you actually put it there. I would say if you ever want to know what emotional regulation requires, start a company, because there is absolutely zero ego that's involved when you are a team of 1 or 2 or 3, and you're sitting around the table asking yourselves, you know, what we are doing is very different from what everybody else has done, and are we actually right? And I think you wake up a year, 2 years down the road, and you recognize like where you started and where you're actually going. It's hard to actually see the milestones because each one of them blend together. And so, yeah, I would agree with you 100%.
You have to enjoy the journey, and you have to have that mental fortitude to keep going. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to believe in what it is you are building, because people just come up with ideas to make them get rich quick. Yeah. And so as soon as a hard time comes, they're done with it. Yeah. So you have to really believe that this thing's worth doing and that it's worth making successful. So welcome to the madhouse. And I think the problem is you're probably broken. Now you're broken. Now you're in the startup world. You can't go back to the normal corporate job, because you'll see stuff and go, "Dude, that sucks. Why do we do it like that?" Yeah. And that's because the way we've always done it with startup. At least you get a bit more control over your life, and that's the beauty of it. So hopefully, you trade security and you become stronger, and you get to control your destiny.
Yeah, I would agree. No, it's a very humbling experience. It is very hard to say that any founder is anything other than unemployable. And the reason that you choose this path is because you know that you are not a good employee. And in that process, you also become a much better person, because you're stressed in other ways that employees are just not stressed. And so, yeah, I would agree with you. It's it's a beautiful experience, and it is a journey. And the destination is, if I could give any advice on that, if you extend your timeline, stop thinking in months, start thinking in years and decades, and all of a sudden things become a little bit more realistic. And so yeah, just extend the timeline.
I totally agree with that. And then the other advice I'd probably give is aligning yourself with people who believe in you or believe in your journey and will be there as a mentor, as a coach, as a connector, because when you've got no money, that's all you can rely on.
You can't say it enough, I believe, yes.
Thanks, man. Thanks for your time. So who have we got here?
My name is Leo Dasa.
Hi, Leo. How are you? So tell us about your company. What do you do?
So in 2016, my brother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I started going with him to chemo every single weekend. And what I realized was that whenever the healthcare team was lacking, he wasn't getting the best quality care. So when he passed away in 2020, I wanted to build something that would essentially make sure that no patient would ever have to go through what he went through. So I'm building out healthcare staffing automation for all of the healthcare workers to make their lives easier and to save more lives as well.
Amazing. Well, there's a legacy story right there with these things. And we're talking a lot with people about how important the why is, why you do what you do, and that one hits pretty hard, to be fair. So we already have met a little bit, so I know a bit about you guys and a bit about your story, but what stage are you guys at right now in the development of the product and getting it to market?
Great question. So we started out 4 months ago. We right now have 5 pilots, 4 paid pilots, and a bunch of commitments from those pilots to come on board once we get through the pilots.
And so what were you doing before you decided to jump and do this company?
I was working in enterprise sales in the corporate world, so reporting to somebody else, which I just didn't want to do anymore.
Yeah. And so when did you officially make the jump to this world?
I officially made the jump 4 months ago.
Yeah? And you did it with your co-founder, didn't you?
No, my co-founder and I, we actually met on like a co-founder dating site, not Hinge or Tinder, but on YC co-founder matchmaking, and we connected from there.
Yeah, and he believed in the vision, because did he have a similar kind of opinion about the space as you did with your brother?
I would say he didn't have a similar opinion. I would say he believed in the vision, and he believed in us as 2 founders, me being a non-technical founder and him being a technical founder.
Yeah. And so what's the plan right now? Is it to raise capital? Is it to kind of bootstrap it? What's your plan?
I think that the most important thing when you're doing a startup and when you have a really strong why is that there is no failure. Like, failure is not an option. So if we can get capital, that would be wonderful. But if we have to bootstrap it, we will bootstrap it as long as we need to make sure that it works.
Amazing. That's what it's about. It's a bit of like mental illness to keep you going. You know, keep going at all costs. I think it's what it takes, man. It's what it takes. And man, it's been awesome to meet you, man. And I applaud you on this project.
Thank
well
you,
done,
I
man.
appreciate it. This guy's the man. This guy is absolutely the man.
So, who am I here with?
I am Connor Crawford. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Pike Robotics. We're a spin-out of the new Austin Nuclear and Applied Robotics Lab. We were funded by an energy company called Phillips 66, and now we're working to put inspection robots into energy facilities to help them reduce greenhouse gases.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds really awesome and really hard to enter into it. So
take one of your questions away just by talking.
You just told it all. No. There's so much to ask. How do we unpack this? So
yeah.
My first question, I think, is going to be, how did you get into this? Why are you the right person to be doing this? Like, did you go to school for it? Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I attended UT Austin mechanical engineering with a focus in robotics, and the lab that I worked in specialized in developing robots for dull, dirty, and dangerous applications, and they've been doing that for like the last 18 years. And so we were kind of surrounded just by like a pipeline of good robotics engineers, and this was like an opportunity to actually take something out of the university lab, because there's a lot of research that goes on at the university, but then once the funding runs out, nothing really becomes of it. It just kind of just stays in the lab.
So was this a university project, basically?
It was a university project, but it was funded by an industry partner.
Yeah.
And so the university actually owns the IP, and we actually, even though it was my invention and my team's invention, we actually have to license it through the university. But we wouldn't be where we are without the university, because it's a really good time to be at UT. They have a really good innovation ecosystem. A really good team of support at the Texas Innovation Center with Ashley Jennings and Van Truscott, and so they've been a really good resource for us for helping us get something out of the lab and into industry.
So it's within the energy space. Is this going into like nuclear reactors or oil pipes, or what part of the energy dirty bits is it getting into?
Yeah, so that's actually a good question. the lab that I come in, they got their original funding from Los Alamos National Labs, and so that's kind of where they developed the nuclear weapons, and so they're actually detecting like kind of like gamma radiation, alpha radiation. The beachhead market for the robot that I'm working on that we were funded for, it works in the midstream and downstream segments of the energy industry, and we specifically work on these big, large storage tanks that you'll probably see if you drive to Houston. You'll see them off the side of the road. These big, like 200-foot diameter tanks, about 45 feet tall. And so we work on inspecting those storage tanks to make sure they're not leaking methane or any kind of other volatile organic compound into the atmosphere.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. So why do you want to do this personally? Like, you know, what's getting you up every single day when there's probably a lot of red tape in this world and like, you know, and this politics between universities and ownership? Like, because as a founder in a technology company, one of the things we want to hold on to is equity and ownership, because that's all we really have at the end of the day to prove. So what's your why?
Obviously, you'd be lying if you said the financial aspect of things wasn't a reason for you doing a venture. Definitely is. At the end of the day, though, whether the company makes money or not, I would just like to see something that I started in grad school actually being used in industry. I mean, I think when you talk about legacy, I mean, any person is going to be a very small part in a very large machine that is the world, and so. But I think that's how you know you were here on the earth, is if you created something that's being used by other people and other companies. And so regardless, obviously the equity thing, you worry about that. You worry about getting diluted. We're actually pursuing a lot of our funding from like the government grants. We got an SBIR from the National Science Foundation. And so that's actually kept us funding. So that's really good. I recommend anyone doing that. If you're a hard tech company, if we're working on something that benefits society, go pursue those small business innovation research grants. That really helps you get going.
And there's ones that exist specifically in certain areas, right? We briefly touched on. So like the Air Force have one, it's called AFWorks. The military has one called CIBRS.
Ensign Foundry has something like that. Yeah, we got ours from the National Science Foundation, but we're also pursuing some from DOE. The DoD has a lot. A lot of the more of the life sciences and health tech focused ones go with the National Institute of Health, or NIH. And so, there's a lot of companies that will help you write these proposals. I recommend getting with a professor that has done this before, and so it's a really good. I have a really good support system that helps me write these proposals and tell a good story that these reviewers would kind of are looking for. So
I've seen that as well. That's not a waste of money. In these videos, we sometimes talk about whether we should use professionals or not, or whether we should do it ourselves. But this is one of the areas, definitely use a professional, because you'll save yourself so much money and time, and these guys know how to do the application process. And I want to go back to another point. Legacy, man. Like, I think that's like literally one of the most important things for me as an entrepreneur is creating impact and legacy in the world. So it's nice to hear you're trying the same thing as well.
It's cool to be able to, when you're doing payroll at the end of the month, actually, I mean, this is different from the actual product, but actually be able to pay someone on pay people on your team. I mean, it's my first venture. Came from working in the defense industry, and it kind of felt like a cog in a very large machine there. And so I kind of want to work on something a little bit smaller. It is a really cool feeling to be able to fund people on your team, and like, it sounds cliche, but put food on their plate, put a roof over their heads. That's a really cool feeling. But we're doing this so that we can get a product in industry, and then establish these relationships, and then go do the next thing. Go find another use case. I hate that word. Use case is used way too much, but it's such a good word. Go find a product that we can leverage our existing technology, and go inspect a pipeline or a distillation column or hydrogen tanks. Hydrogen is very popular these days. And so, but having something that you and your team created, and you were an integral part of its success or its failure, that gets me out of bed in the morning. Yeah.
Amazing. And like, I've seen a lot of these things as well. My dad back in the 90s worked in oil and gas in the Middle East, and there's a lot of very dangerous things that humans have had to do normally, and I guess that's where your robotic stuff comes in. And I want to touch back on that other point you made, which is, you've just reminded me when I first started paying people who have a family and a mortgage, and we had an interview today talking about what it really takes to be an entrepreneur. And as soon as you start involving more people, we think it's going to be really fun and exciting to have team members because it's cool because you can do more.
Stressful.
But then all of a sudden you go, shit, and you realize that you are the reason their kids are eating.
Yeah.
And it really hits you, the impact you're having. So you're having immediate legacy now on these people and
cool
the environment they're working in. And a lot of those are pretty crappy. So you can impact that right now and help them out.
Yeah, it's the team is helping the team kind of get through the month. That is a really cool feeling. You mentioned kind of removing people from dangerous jobs. That's the other big part. With the technology we have today, there's really no reason to be sending people into these hazardous environments. So that's kind of another big play for this company is like Dow Chemical has like an initiative to reduce all confined space entries by 2025, and we'll see if they get there. It's a very large initiative. It's going to be very difficult to accomplish.
Yeah.
But I think we have a very good opportunity to take existing tech and just put it all together. And we're making use of Intel computers. We're making use of some of their cameras as well. It's really just integration of existing sensors and actuators that are already out there, and putting them into a package, into a product that can be used. And that's really what you need to be doing as a startup.
Yeah, and Matt, I'm going to close on this point, which is that we need people like you who are innovators and entrepreneurs. So the big corporates will never do it. They probably won't make that target, right? We need people like you to create small, agile companies funded in unique ways to go solve these problems, and that's how we get it done.
Someone told me this recently about what a startup industry actually is, and it really is a branch. You're not acquired by these larger companies yet, but this is a way for them to de-risk and do R&D at a lower cost, and then they wean out all the ones that don't make it. And then they will end up acquiring you after you reach some traction, you reach some momentum. So in a way, we're always kind of working for the large corporates.
Yeah.
But it's a way for you to have a little bit more fun in the process and give yourself a little bit more meaning and your team a little bit more meaning while you do that. So
absolutely. Cool. Man, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.